All right. Welcome back to the channel, Gods and Goddesses in Training. It is Uncle Makara, all relations. Today we're talking all about the identity jailbreak, okay? Now, your identity, your sense of I, your ego, mind, identity, okay? Also known as your EMI, creates a bunch of noise and static in your mind that actually doesn't help you function optimally. It's actually a very bizarre way of living, right? However, if you really start noticing that you're giving yourself an excuse of, I'm not like that, right? That's just not me. This is one of the biggest roadblocks that I've personally witnessed, seeing many patients, clients daily, is they let their identities or egos block themselves from actually creating the reality that they truly prefer. Okay, so this is what I want to talk about today, and hopefully you can learn something out of it. You can gain something out of it that will help you with your own present lifestyle or different ways that you've been able to handle, um, changing yourself and transforming yourself in a sense. So, without further ado, let's get started. I am going to share this with the tribe. All right. All right, cool. So, without further ado, let's talk about this. So, Ramana Maharshi had this quote, how to stop thinking. There is an end. If you are vigilant and make a stern effort to reject every thought when it rises, you will soon find that you are going deeper and deeper into your own inner self, where there is no need for your effort to reject the thoughts. The effort is sublimated in just awareness of the self. You see? So the mirror does not equal the shadow. What you see in another is not their flaw. It is your own denied thought reflecting back to you. The insult, the praise, the trigger, all of it is a projection of you. So the original delusion of separation from God is just a tiny mad idea, but this world is a sandbox classroom where that mad idea plays out so that we can heal it. So that we can heal it. So what you project outwards boomerangs back, and your mind makes the world, then forgets that it made the world, then it blames the mirror. Are we getting this, guys? Okay. So, well, we sent it at the same time. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Awesome. That's awesome. We're so connected, babe. We are so tapped in, so connected. Relationships is also curriculum, right? Because every person in our orbit is a specific contact. Each one is like a slice of pizza of our soul contract. And once we heal them all, we realize it was all just relationship with God, relationship with Source through different ways, right? So when triggered, try to stop pointing the finger outwards. And this is mine, I created this, right? And feeling the wound fully, allowing, instead of spiritual bypassing it, sitting in the sting of it, letting the insult pierce your heart open and owning the pain before offering it up, offering it to spirit, not lip service, right? Heal my mind that believes that I'm separate. Dear Lord, please heal my mind. that believes that I am separate, right? That unlocks the atonement. And if you're healed, the insult has no landing pad, right? So if it stings, more honesty is required. Okay. Um, so there are no others, as Ramana Maharshi said. All figures are NPCs in the dream of God. Every encounter is ourselves in disguise. And the original error happened in eternity, but it worked out in time. So Earth is like a lab, right? Where heaven is rediscovered. Like in quantum analogy, like let's take entangled photons. When you change your spin, the other changes instantly. So relationships are actually non-local frequency bonds. And, you know, matter or antimatter should have canceled. I mean, the universe is just a dream of separation. It has no lasting reality. However, if you heal the relationship after relationship until you realize all is one. So don't cling to any victimhood or to egoic victory. Both are the same delusion. If you bypass the mirror, the universe returns the scene with new actors and the same trigger. So that means true forgiveness. True forgiveness is a type of liberation. It's the jailbreak. It's the first part of the jailbreak, you could say, that liberates you and the other simultaneously. Because then any karmic play dissolves and frequency starts to synchronize. Even small synchronicities like pens arriving unasked are proofs. The mind as whole projection returns as provision. So moving cities, switching friend groups until the mind is healed. You bring your mind wherever you go, right? And miracles are your birthright. But purification, mirror work, forgiveness, ownership, this must come first if we're trying to jailbreak ourselves. Okay? Yo, Mathis, what's good? So even these little vague synchronicities are very relevant for us. So I'm going to rip off the mask off of this one because most of us are living in a trance deeper than hypnosis. We think shadow work is just journaling some sad shit or like crying on a full moon, but real shadow work is like a prison break, in my opinion. It's a jailbreak from the psycho prison called the self-image. The self-image, how others see us, right, and perceive us. And the bars aren't made of iron, they're made of belief. And the inner warden is that inner voice whispering, you're not enough, you always screw it up, you're unworthy. That's not truth, that's just programming, right? It's a malware suggestion you absorbed when you were too young to defend your psychic firewall, right? And we've all been running with this virus ever since. So technically, the shadow is the code that we disowned every time we reject, deny, or exile part of ourselves. Your system buries it in the basement, slaps a mask on it, and it keeps going forward, keeps walking. But that basement isn't locked. The shadows leak out. They leak out as triggers, addictions. The shadows leak, right? Toxic relationship, procrastination, self-sabotage. You're not haunted by demons. You're haunted by disowned data. Your nervous system doesn't act on truth, it acts on imagery. Imagery. It obeys whatever dominates your inner theater, right? So self-loathing is just bad software running on divine hardware. Listen to that again. Self-loathing is just bad software running on divine hardware. Okay? So affirmations don't fix corrupted code. You can chant, I am powerful while your throat chakra is raw. But if your inner operating system is still running, I suck, Your nervous system will ignore the whisper and then obey the roar. So shadow work is not wallpaper, right? It's a blueprint engineering. The system rewires through experience, not logic. So trauma wasn't words, it was an experience that you went through. And that's why logic can't fix it. You need counter experiences. Memory and imagination are the same weapon, as I said yesterday, and reimagining failures until our nervous system cannot tell the difference. That's how we rewrite and overwrite the scar tissue. So failure is a feedback, it is not identity. It's a missile course correct 1,000 times a second and still it nails the target, right? But if you treat every wobble like I'm broken, you hijack the calibration system. So this is really a dropping of the micromanagement, stopping the overthinking mid-swing, knowing that the conscious mind sets the target and the subconscious pulls the trigger. So trust the weapon, aim, release, and adapt, aim, release, and adapt, aim, release, and adapt, right? The real you is not built, it's uncovered. You are buried under scripts, scar tissue, and cultural hypnosis, right? 1 second. Um, all right. Yeah, just messaging somebody, client. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, so shadow work is not about adding light, right? It's about sitting in the dark dungeon of your psyche until your eyes adjust and realizing the monster in the cell was you all along that was waiting to be reclaimed. And happiness is mechanical, right? Joy isn't the finish line. It's the lubricant that keeps the mechanism smooth. So waiting for permission to feel good is like waiting for a jailbreak after you've already got the key in your hand. So what you call me is just loops that you've rehearsed. If you practice shame over and over and over again, you become shameful, or you start emanating that code of that feeling, right? When you practice courage over and over and over again, you become courage. So just edit the code, right? Movement always kills the spiral, right? So don't just sit analyzing your trauma like a Netflix binge. One action, one phone call, one expression, one bold risk feeds new data into the machine. And then the loop updates through motion, not thoughts, right? Your scars are definitely real, but they're also editable files because trauma wasn't the wound. Trauma was the meaning you fossilized around the wound. So when you rewrite the meaning, the file transforms. Forgiveness is software hygiene, right? It deletes the corrupted files so that your present system stops lagging from outdated scripts. This is why we have to sit with ourselves and speak to ourselves very kind, very compassionate, like the voice of a parent, a really nurturing, loving parent. And this is how we should feel when working with our spirit guides. This level of familial bonding, this understanding that winning is not an event, it's a frequency. I will install the state first, and the world scrambles itself to match my vibration. Even aging is programmable, right? The moment you stop feeding your nervous system image, like the moment you don't give yourself any images of like hustle, adventure, play, growth, you know, future, that's the moment that decay begins, not before, right? If you keep thinking of wrinkles and like growing older and like wheelchairs and all this kind of stuff, yeah, you're feeding that future, right? But if I imagine myself as an old man, right, carrying a cane and still dancing with the cane or whatever, right? Like just so agile, so flexible as an old man, right? Isn't that a better mentality, right? Mathis says it's root access like on the phone, so jailbreak is your OS is the Apple iPhone. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, great analogy. Great analogy. And You know, face the trigger, don't bypass it, right? Feel the sting in your body and don't numb it. Practice doing that because then you can finally reframe the meaning of it, rewrite the file, reinstall the joy, courage, and play. Okay? So stop calling the trance me. Identity is editable code, as I said. So shadow work is not just looking at your wounds, it's hijacking the system, deleting the malware, right? Rewriting the scripts and running as the goddamn sovereign OS of your soul. So why is identity level change so difficult, so hard? Because you're not just trying to change habits or behaviors, you're messing with the scaffolding of the psyche itself. Identity is the root program, right? And roots don't rewire easily, okay? Now, there's this guy named Dilts, right? You might see the Dilts model. He has the scale where you have environment, behavior, capabilities, beliefs and values, identity and purpose. If you look up Dilts, a Robert Dilts model, uh, you can find a map for this. And most people try to fix at the bottom, change their environment, hustle harder, hack behaviors. But the higher up the pyramid, right, the deeper the leverage. And identity is like the bottleneck. So if the self-image says, I am a loser, no environment hack will stick. The nervous system sabotages to maintain congruence with an identity. But then if you start reframing that, I'm not a loser, I'm a winner in transit, right? I'm not a loser, I just gain feedback and learn. I'm a learner, right? I'm not a loser, this was just one game, right? So the moment you reframe it, you're giving it a new label, right? Now it has to make sense to you. I cannot give you your reframes for you. You see, it has to come from that deepest part of your heart and soul where you understand this is what it means to me now. Okay? So it's like, I'll do that one because Uncle Makara said it. That's not going to work for you. You have to find your own reframes, you see? So work top down, not bottom up, anchor to purpose. What am I in service to? Right? And install new identity, then beliefs, values, cascade down, then behaviors, then the environment will shift naturally. Okay? So Carl Jung, of course, had this very reposted quote, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you'll call it fate, right? So he noticed that identity is defended by the shadow. The ego doesn't just hold on to who you think you are, it fiercely rejects the disowned parts. So any attempt at identity change feels like death to the ego because those hidden drives want acknowledgement first. So integrate your shadow. Don't just affirm a new identity, sit in the muck of it and dialogue with the denied archetypes. Reclaim the exiled energies. What's up, man? I know I haven't said hello in a while, but what's going on really? Hello, my old friend. Right? And the conversation begins because the new identity isn't just painted on, right? It emerges from integrating the parts that you've been running from. So this is why it's so important because even like, even Steiner talks about this in his esoteric psychology, right? Like yesterday's podcast, egregores work with core identity if they are sown. Yeah, yeah. Egregores definitely work with core identity. And Steiner mapped human evolution, physical body, etheric body, astral body, and the I. So identity level, well, he said the I is the true self, right? So the identity level change is difficult because most people are stuck identifying with their astral body, their emotions, their desires, their reactive forces, and then they mistake those surges for being their true self. But if you strengthen the I, right, practices of meditation, moral imagination, virtuous thinking, and visualization. Conscious attention burns through astral impulses and lets the higher self sculpts the identity very consciously. And without that, you're kind of like a puppet of your moods, desires, and external egregores, right? So Maxwell Maltz, I don't know if you guys know this, psychocybernetics, right? The plastic surgeon, he noticed people could radically change their face, but if their self-image didn't update, they still acted ugly, shy, unworthy. So the nervous system acts like a servo mechanism, he said. It obeys the image. It always obeys the image, right? So identity is sticky because the body and subconscious are programmed to maintain a homeostasis or a balance, right? So very vivid imagination and then re-experiencing those imaginations is the protocol, right? Replaying your victories, rehearsing new roles that you're stepping into, visualizing future self until the nervous system can't tell memory from your imagination, right? So visceral, so real, so transcendent that it just merges with your natural sense of self, right? And the self-image updates through experience, like I said, not willpower. So give yourself more experiences in life, right? Like I'll go over here or I'll, suddenly try this thing out. Go for it. Go for it. Go for those leaps in consciousness, right? Those random callings or like little nudges from the world. Like that's so good for identity and behavioral change, right? Because biologically, your nervous system is designed to preserve what is familiar to you. But what if the unfamiliar was familiar to you? Ooh, dang, okay. So identity is the survival map. Changing identity triggers the same circuits as death threat, correct? So that's why people cling to misery. It's familiar misery, right? Misery loves company, as they say. So the protocol out, when integrated properly, right, is purpose anchor, right? Aim above yourself. The identity is something transpersonal, so the ego doesn't cling. Okay. So find the purpose anchor, shadow integration, face the parts you reject, own them, merge their energy instead of bottling it. Train attention, imagination, and moral action. Step out of the astral automation into a conscious authorship. Daily vivid visualization of the self you choose, and reinforce with micro experiences that confirm that vision. Okay. The next is, of course, embodied action. So take steps that prove the new identity in the body, right? Movement, like I said, gets you out of that stagnancy, that downward spiral. And oftentimes, action installs belief. So wipe the old malware, delete the I'm broken narrative, because failure is feedback, not fate. Okay, identity feels hard to change because the psyche guards it like survival itself. But that prison is editable. So that means the jailbreak requires purpose, shadow reclamation, right? Strengthening the higher, nervous system reprogramming. And done together, you can actually break homeostasis and install sovereignty. Okay, guys? So this is a very deep concept, and if you guys have any final questions or anything, just type it in the chat. But this is kind of what I'm thinking about in terms of this. This is a very powerful topic, and and of course, I the background, as you notice, is like floating through the astral, right? With a bunch of these. Well, I don't even know. It just reminds me of Vega, my home planet, my starseed lineage, right? But yeah, I hope you guys are having an incredible day wherever it is you're tuning in from, and I hope that this really helps you, shapes you towards your greatest current, and makes you understand that you're just a choice away, right? You're just a choice away from a new identity. You just have to feed into that new identity and start growing it psychically, right? In the background. Um, you got to understand how to make it work for you instead of against you, right? Your identity can sometimes work for you or against you, right? You have to understand the pros and cons of stepping into a new role, a new classification, It all points you back to your own path and source, right? At the end of the day. So let's say you're like a project manager in a new firm. Well, how does that play into your spiritual path, right? If you can justify it to me, I'll accept it as a part of your spiritual pathway. But if you cannot justify it to me, then there's something that is off in that behavior in some way. You're doing it for some approval, something to cover up something else, the easy way out, whatever it is, right? So don't just justify it to me, justify it to your own consciousness while you're on the path that you're on. That's really what's going to help you step into the true authentic identity that you truly prefer, right? I had to build this Uncle Makara guy over the years. It did not happen in just one day, right? Even in the beginning, you guys saw that I used to say no relations instead of all relations, right? And it changed because, well, my ideas changed. The realizations changed. The spiritual amnesia started to disappear, right? And so this is what I'm really talking about, guys, is you got to really learn how to step into the role that source is giving you, that spirit is giving you, right? And once you can tune into that, I mean, the rest will unfold, right? And we also taught you how to quantum jump in yesterday's video, so go check that out as well. It's very, very potent and powerful. If you can connect with your halo, your soul star, it is going to absolutely change and transform you. And you'll feel these ripples and, expansiveness as you just tap into that and into your oversoul chakras, okay? Have an incredible rest of your day. May the flow be with you, okay? And we'll speak when we're ready. All right. Claudia says, fire, fire, fire. Awesome. All right, guys. Peace. Thank you so much. Have an incredible rest of your day.